Hello and welcome to Ula Tea Leaf Readings. My name is Lenor and tonight I'm going to be reading your tea leaves. This is a horoscope for Gemini. If Gemini is your solar, lunar, ascendant / rising sign, this is a message for you. Okay, let's get started. Okay, knock, knock, knock. Let's see what Gemini has today. Okay. Let's see. Now, I like to hold this down a little bit so I can see some of the negative space, which would be the white in between. This is interesting. We have kind of a repeating formation, which I don't see often. So I want to just point out here. Okay, so we have a boar or a hog or a pig. Okay, so in my mind it comes up as like a wild boar. Okay, and then we have another here with the head and the body. Okay, and then possibly a third, although this one, now that I'm looking at it, looks a little different because it has the longer ear. Okay, so at least two of the boar or pigs. So we're going to talk about this pairing here first. Okay, so we have the pig and then we have a snake, which is kind of how you would picture a cobra kind of standing up in a striking posture, possibly. And what comes to mind immediately are the snake and the pig of the Chinese zodiac, okay? The snake, as we know, probably, anyways, you might know, you might not, I don't know, is very much related to intelligence, almost a sense of being a little bit shrewd, but not cruel. More along the lines of moving mysteriously, keeping, you know, their cards hidden. Okay, always having a game plan, being very precise about what they say and do. Okay, so a very intellectual mind. And then we have the pig, okay, or the boar. And this is more a person who likes to have fun, who's very inviting, goes out of their way to accommodate, very generous. So these seem like they could be kind of at odds. But I would say that they actually make a good partnership because oftentimes you kind of need, you know, somebody, if you're a little too more analytical thinking, you know, a little less able to unwind, kind of slow down, enjoy life, you're going to need somebody or a part of self that can get you to definitely like let go of the reins a little bit, right? And take time to smell the roses, as they would say. Okay, so now I think that this is a little bit less about a coupling of two people, although it could be, right? This could be you and your partner. This could be you and your future partner. Maybe even a past partner. Maybe this didn't work out. But I think more realistically, this is kind of maybe not a conflict within yourself, but two parts of self that you maybe vacillate between. Okay, I think that sometimes you go way into that more critical thinking mind, you know, nose to the grindstone, always, you know, making plans on the next move you're gonna make. And then you kind of get a little burnt maybe and get more into this like party mode, this just wanting to hang out, enjoy your people, that kind of thing, okay? So I think the real story here is much more about figuring out how are you going to find a happy medium between the two, okay? Instead of going all in on either side, back and forth, because I feel like you could get whiplash from living like that, okay? And I also think that it would be easy to really spend a lot of time building up your plans, beginning to execute them, getting tired of that, and then, you know, kind of blowing it. Although, you know, you've spent all of this energy and these resources to get things lined up for yourself, in a moment of, you know, just kind of, I need a break, you know, I need some me time, or I deserve this, you know, this kind of thinking, just going too far into it, and things kind of, you know, aren't seen through, okay? So I think this is part of the growth process that you're going through right now. I think this is something a lot of us go through, especially when you're coming into adulthood. That's a big, I'm like post-college, okay? Coming into your 30s, I think, and if you're older than I am, that might sound old to you, but listen, our generations, I think we grew up a little later than our parents and their parents, and you know, we come into what we could perceive as our adulthood a little bit later than previous generations there. So I think that, you know, this is a good time to kind of figure out how you're going to refine some of that. Allow both of these parts of yourself to thrive, okay? And now with this other large boar up here, I'm wondering, and this is in the mental space, psychic space. I feel like this is the mode that you have been in, okay? You have been out there, you've been living your life. You know, you've probably been having a lot of fun. Maybe you've done some traveling. Maybe after, you know, all of the restrictions we all had for those years, you know, you just went a little wild. You had your fun, right? You definitely made up for lost time. And now it's kind of getting to a point where maybe you want to settle down a little bit. Maybe you're thinking about, you know, where do you want to live? Is it time to throw down some roots? Have you come into a career, a job, a position that you could see yourself continuing on with for some years? Or possibly, maybe, you know, you are actually going into retirement, or a part of your life where your finances are going to become a little different, and you kind of have to slow down the lifestyle you were having before, so that you can plan for, you know, a little longevity as far as your finances go, and maybe investing some of it, maybe just tempering your spending so that, you know, you can live the life you want, but, you know, maybe not as extravagantly as you have been or had in the past. And this makes sense to me with the Knight of Wands, which is also would be the King of Wands. Okay, this is the Thoth deck. So the King of Wands is the Knight of Wands in his deck. Okay, so in Crowley's deck, and this card is very much about this idea of, you know, having gone out there, had your adventures, lived your life, well, you know, well and good, gotten into some things, maybe had some relationships, and you've gained some wisdoms of the world. Okay, you're not somebody who's been super sheltered. And I think that you've really had this education, especially of the first part of your life. Okay, childhood into adolescence, and then your young adult life. You've gone out there and you've lived. Okay, so now maybe you're going into middle age, maybe you're, well, coming into adulthood, going into middle age, maybe retirement and beyond. Okay, somewhere in there. But this is the time I feel like you're ready to kind of have your kingdom and to rule it. Okay, you feel like you understand how things work. You're beginning to have some clarity about how you work. Okay, what the things that, not just your ideas of how the world should be for you or how your life should look, but really little glimpses at what do you really, really, really need, and what do you really, really want. Okay, and how are you going to make that happen? And I think that you have a little more insight about these things than most people do. Okay, so that's good, because I think you're going to be probably more successful at sustaining the life that you are building for yourself. I think often people who begin very young, or they never experience too much outside of what the idea of what they should be doing, what people tell them to do, or, you know, kind of travel that path that is laid out for them by family, by society, you know, just by social norms. Oftentimes you get into this part of your life where you know, are an adult, or your kids have grown up and left or whatever, and you find yourself a little bit disillusioned because you've never really, you know, lived by your whims, or done things unconventionally, or, you know, just found things that you truly desire, love, are impassioned by, right? And just kind of let yourself be immersed in those things, in those people, in those moments. Okay, and so when you get older and you haven't had these things happen, I think it's easy to you know, like I said, you become disillusioned, but it's easy to kind of almost self-sabotage, maybe become resentful, angry, act out. You know, I think this is why sometimes families kind of break up, divorces happen. Unfortunately, I think this could also be the catalyst for, you know, some kinds of melancholy, and just, I mean, just an existential crisis of crises, right? you're lucky if you have kind of an underlying, you know, constant existential crisis going on, because it's a little bit at a time. I mean, this is how I feel anyways, personally. I don't know what would happen if one day I woke up and I had been going along my life and doing things how I thought they should be done, and then, you know, getting patted on the back, and then all of a sudden, one day I wake up and I just don't understand the world, right? Or myself, or whatever. That would be very scary. So sometimes it maybe is better that you never quite understand the world, or you never quite feel settled, you know, in this human form. So, anyways, that was a bit of a tangent, but I do think that you are somebody who's been out there, you've experienced life, you've had your troubles, you've had ordeals, and I'm not saying that you won't have them again, but I think that you are going to be able to really put yourself into this world that you're building for yourself, maybe for your family, for, you know, your immediate community, and I really think that you have no problem with being passionate, you know, being in love and moved by maybe people, but more so by ideas and experiences and, you know, just the things that you do, your hobbies, your interests, you know, how you spend your time. And I think that you are mindful about how you spend your time. Okay. And so all of these things are going to be pluses for sure. Let's see. I am seeing, interestingly, I see kind of this, this one looks like a praying mantis, and this one looks like one too. So I wonder if, you, and now let's just forget, gendering the praying mantis and just taking the, you know, the symbolism of maybe a insect that that will destroy its mate. Okay. And we don't need to gender that within this scenario, but I think almost that you might have multiple interests in people, and maybe you have not been good at picking your partners, or if you are single and you're dating, beware, because it seems like there are at least two people who don't have your best don't have your best interests in mind. Okay, so I think that just being careful about the people that you're giving your time to, you're getting close to, that you are letting into your personal life. Be discerning. Okay, I've been when I'm just kind of skipping around in my moments of free time here and there, which are not many, I've seen a lot of things about, they're called like romance scammers. So I think, you know, maybe this is a thing that really affects a lot of people. I don't know, but just be careful. I mean, that could be it, and that's all internet based mostly, but you know, things like that. People just being out for self and taking advantage of you, especially when you're coming into a place where you're feeling good, you're doing good, you're settling down, and maybe you're more receptive to finding somebody who also seems like they want to settle down, or, you know, what have you. Okay. Just be careful. Let's see. Okay, so we have right here a bird that is perched, and it looks like something like a parrot or like a, I think the cockatoos have the thing on their, like the feathers on their head. It looks like a domesticated bird, right? And it seems like it is in kind of contemplation. Okay, so I will take this as a bird that is it's, you know, there's an intelligence there that is identifiable, but the nature in some way feels like it's been dulled or clipped. Okay, like a bird having its wings clipped, and really that is the contemplation part, is not knowing what to do with yourself when you feel like you can't live by your own nature. Okay, or this concept of having varied parts of your nature. Some are more prominent, some lesser so, or less developed. Okay, so this could be that you're a very intellectual person. You have a less developed emotional side. You repress your feelings. You feel shame. You have maybe, you know, tantrums or outbursts when you're pushed too far emotionally. This is just an example. So I feel like there's some part of self that, and maybe this is reversed, maybe you're highly emotional, but that more logical, rational thinking side, you know, it's kind of more stunted or repressed because you let your emotions rule you, or you like the feeling of power, or you know, the high highs, the low lows, maybe. Either way, I think that this is really interesting, a really interesting symbol telling you that I think it's important to really, now we talked about this balancing of the snake and the pig or the boar. I think this is also so much about just really trying to not suppress those parts of yourself. So if you really are somebody who feels like you cannot be emotional around people or even with yourself, maybe trying to do some kinds of exercises to allow yourself the space to have emotional reactions. Even if that feels like it doesn't come naturally. But it, you know, it's natural for all of us to feel emotions. It's conditioned out of us often. Okay, especially if you've grown up, you know, being identified as a male. I think in our society that, you know, men are pushed to kind of relinquish that emotionality. And to some extent, women as well. Girls, women, and people in between on the wherever on the spectrum, or non-binary as well. I mean, really just all of us. But the thing about being especially feminine leaning, when you express emotions that are difficult for other people to categorize or deal with, you know, oftentimes it's kind of pushed into this idea of being hysterical, neurotic, crazy, that kind of thing. Okay, so that can also make us repress, mask, and so on. Okay, so I think it's important to find spaces or create spaces privately, if that is better, to allow yourself to feel some emotions. Let some of that stuff out. You know, there are things like those, like laughing yoga or primal screaming, okay? You know, I mean, these are just two things that come to mind. Just allowing yourself to cry sometimes. I mean, literally, quite literally, just laying in an empty, quiet room, you know, and letting yourself go over. And I'm not talking about traumatizing yourself or going through traumas and re-traumatizing yourself. That I would not advocate for that. But what I am saying is revisiting things that maybe have hurt or make you feel sensations of emotionality, right? And just letting some of that stuff wash over you and feeling it, okay? This might be, you know, on the other side of things, you know, maybe just working on pausing before you react. If you are a very reactive or emotional person, maybe pausing, thinking about things, doing the counting to 10, right? Working on I statements. If you don't know what that is, Google it. You know, really trying to, you know, just, I can't think of a lot of, you know, examples really, but I would just say, write down some of the stuff, the emotional stuff. Okay. Journaling. I'm not, you know, I don't advocate anybody to not feel and express how they feel and or anything like that. But I think that, you know, we can definitely develop the parts of ourselves, you know, that feel less natural. Okay. And I think just doing that for the logical and more, just being a little more regimented about things, considering how we're going to talk to somebody else, or, you know, if you have like a emotional conversation coming up, really planning that out. And that really is a good exercise in itself, trying to plan out, think about, you know, if they react in this way, what are a variety of things that I could say or do, you know, and trying to come from a place that's a little more thought out. Okay. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh, this is starting to dry out a little bit. I'm just looking to see if we had any letters. I do see a tiny little P right here. It's hard to kind of see, maybe right there you go, right there. A little tiny P. This one looks like an 8 actually. Maybe look out for an 8. Now this one's interesting because I see, it's hard to tell and I'm sorry, but it looks like a backwards question. No, that's right. That's a right. Backwards. Oh, it's almost bedtime. A question mark. And then it looks like maybe, I'm thinking like a dog or a sheep. It looks like a dog to me. And then this one looks like a face. This one really, it makes me think of a quote I read earlier, and it is, don't explain yourself to people. They're going to think what they want anyways. And I'm paraphrasing. So it kind of almost seems like there could be somebody or somebodies in your life who are really just sometimes in your face, really questioning what you're doing, why you're doing it. wanting an explanation. And it seems to me like sometimes it might just be easier to not explain it all. And I think that is really a part of, gosh, for me, it was becoming a mom, but like getting older, I just feel like I don't need to explain a lot of things to people. Not that anybody really is like questioning totally like me very often, but I just, you know, I have this whole vibe now that it's like, you know, I'm just on my own tip, and I'll, you know, if I have words for you, I'll share with you. But if not, I'm not going to. And I think setting that kind of atmosphere with people, kind of those boundaries, it's so freeing. It's very freeing. Okay. So I think that that would bring you a lot of peace as well. And I think that this is really, this is related to what we were just talking about, tempering either the emotional side or the really logical side, either way, or some other functions within yourself, you know, being intuitive, or I forget, I know there are a few of them, but those are the three that come to mind. Anyways, yeah, I think that definitely if there are people, and it feels like it's family stuff, and I think this makes sense because you're coming into a place where you're settling down again, and you're really working on getting, you know, this next cycle of your life kind of all set up. And I feel like, you know, there's been a lot of questions from people, you know, and maybe just kind of being nosy, but also kind of, you know, trying to, you know, get you to behave in some way or perform in some way. And I think that it, just by your nature, it's irritating to you. And that makes sense. That would be kind of irritating. So I think, and here we go, another question mark right there. So I think there's, you know, I feel like it's just some of this stuff's up in the air. I feel like people are coming at you with questions. I also think that you have some questions about, you know, just getting settled. But I also think that you have a very strong resolve. And as things are happening, and, you know, when you are coming from a place of living a little more like free willing to setting down some roots, and maybe, you know, finding a city or a town that you want to live in, or, you know, like I had said at the beginning of the thing, like the job that you want to stay with for a while, or career path, you know, little crises come up because, you know, you're trying to figure out how everything fits together. And I think that you're really in a place of confidence and understanding, and just really being able to navigate sometimes like the unknown, or, you know, not when things aren't going your way, or they're not working out, and there's, you know, you're having to wait on somebody or something to come through, and this and that. I think you do well in those situations, and so that's going to serve you on top of everything else. So I don't think you're worried about being in this place of questioning, but I think that you are motivated to continue to figure out exactly where you're headed. Okay. And I don't think that's too far off. I think that you really already made some decisions, and it's really a matter of going from this kind of more theoretical sense of settling to settling down, to really, really, you know, doing it and being able to, you know, fight off that urge to shake things up again too much. Okay. So, yeah, I think that's, you know, that's the reading I have for you, Gemini, which is actually a really, really mellow reading for Gemini. Usually mine are not that, you know, easy when I'm reading for you all. You usually lead a pretty exciting and dramatic life. Okay. All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for allowing me to do this reading for you. I'm always so honored. If you would consider liking the video, it helps me get in the algorithm. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please also think about doing that. You can hit the little bell button and it will tell you when the next videos come out. Also, please leave a comment. I love hearing from each and every one of you. You all are so sweet and have such wonderful energy, and I appreciate that. Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll see you again very soon.